The world told you who to be, you already knew. You were loud when you felt like being loud. You were soft when you needed to be soft. You took up space without asking permission. Then someone you loved said something small, and something inside you quietly rearranged itself. This is Maya's story. But if you listen closely, it might also be yours. Maya is 9 years old, and like most 9-year-olds, her world has exactly one gravity: her parents. Psychologists call this unconditional positive regard, the thing every child is biologically wired to seek from a caregiver. Not just love, approval. It's not a weakness, it's survival. For thousands of years, a child who lost favor with their parent didn't just feel bad. They were in actual danger. So the brain learned. Make them approve of you. Make them keep you. What happens in these moments, these small, everyday moments, builds the architecture of who Maya will become. Let's watch.
Do you really need that? You're getting a little chunky.
He probably thought he was helping. Maybe he was worried about her health. Maybe nobody ever told him how this lands. But here's what Maya's brain just recorded. Children's brains are not mini adult brains. They don't filter. They don't contextualize. They absorb. When a parent, the most trusted voice in a child's world, comments on their body negatively, research shows it significantly raises the risk of body image issues, disordered eating, and a relationship with food built on shame rather than nourishment. She didn't learn that from a magazine. She learned it at dinner.
Stop that. Why do you always have to act so weird? Can't you just be normal for once?
What just happened wasn't discipline. It was editing. A parent just told a child that who she naturally is something to be hidden. The tragedy isn't the moment. It's the repetition. Because children believe their parents completely, automatically, without question. So if your parent tells you that you're weird, you don't think, maybe they're wrong. You think, I must be. And you start performing, shrinking yourself to fit into the shape they seem to want.
I can't deal with you right now. Sometimes I wish things had been different.
Maybe the mother didn't mean it. Maybe it came from exhaustion, not cruelty. But here's what neuroscience tells us. The brain does not distinguish between an accident and an intention. Pain is pain. And for a child to hear, even once, that their existence is unwanted, is one of the most destabilizing things the human mind can experience. It doesn't just hurt feelings, it attacks the foundation. Psychologists describe it as an attack on a child's core self, the fundamental belief that they have a right to exist, to take up space, to be here. Once that belief is cracked, everything built on top of it becomes unstable.
Do you know how much everything costs? Everything with you is always something. You're exhausting, you know that.
This is the wound that teaches children to disappear. When a child repeatedly receives the message that their needs are a problem, they learn to stop having needs, or at least to stop showing them. On the outside, these children often look incredibly self-sufficient, independent, mature for their age. Adults praise them for it. What they don't see is the child who has learned to swallow hunger, to cry alone, to be smaller than they are, because they were taught that needing things makes you a problem. Comparison is a peculiar weapon because it wounds two children at once.
This is good, Maya, but your sister had straight A's at your age. Why can't you apply yourself like she does?
The one being compared down learns they are never enough. The one being held up as the standard learns that they are only loved conditionally for their performance. Research consistently shows that sibling comparison doesn't motivate children. It breeds resentment. Not toward the parent who compared them, toward each other. The parent becomes untouchable. The sibling becomes the target. And two children who should have been each other's greatest allies in the world become quiet rivals instead.
You know what? Keep this up and maybe I'll just go. See how you manage without me.
It worked. That's the problem with this one. It works. The child quiets down, complies, becomes easier to manage. And so the parent learns, consciously or not, that this threat is effective. What's actually happening in that child's nervous system is something psychologists call attachment terror. The fear of abandonment is not an abstract feeling for a child. It is a survival alarm. And when that alarm is triggered repeatedly by the very person the child depends on for survival, the nervous system rewires itself around it. She never forgot that lesson. The one that said, love can be taken away, so hold on tight. Don't make them angry. Don't let them leave. Maybe next time, sweetheart. Next time we'll go, I promise. This one feels the smallest. It doesn't shout. It doesn't scar in an obvious way. But watch what it teaches. Trust is not built in grand gestures. It is built in the quiet consistency of kept promises. And when a parent repeatedly says one thing and does another, the child doesn't just stop trusting the parent. They stop trusting words. They stop trusting people. They stop trusting that what someone says has anything to do with what will actually happen. Here is what I want you to hold on to. Maya's parents were not monsters. Most of the time, people hurt people. Not because they want to, because nobody ever showed them anything different. The words were passed down like old furniture, brought into a new home, placed in the same corner, without ever asking if they still belonged there. But here is where Maya's story changes. One day, Maya sat across from a therapist. And for the first time in her life, she said the things out loud that she had only ever said to herself in the dark. And something extraordinary happened. The voice in her head, the one that said, "You're too much. You're not enough. You don't deserve to take up space." It got quieter. Not gone. Not yet. But quieter. This is what neuroscience calls neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to change, to rewire, to write new stories over old ones. It doesn't happen overnight. It isn't easy, but it is real. And it is available to every single person watching this. Maya still hums when she draws. Nobody taught her to stop that. Not permanently. The beautiful truth about human beings is that we are not the sum of what was done to us. We are what we choose to do with it. If Maya's story felt like yours, if you recognized a word, a dinner table, a silence, first, know this. You were not too much. You were not too weird. You were not a burden. You were not stupid. You were not unwanted. You were a child. In a world that didn't always know how to hold you as carefully as you deserved. And that is not your fault. It never was. The cycle that was handed to you does not have to be handed forward. It can stop. With you. In the quiet decision to understand yourself instead of just repeat the past. You already took the first step today. You chose to understand. That matters more than you know.